What's up, gamers? Horse fever is upon us, and as a newly minted UMA trainer, I had the brilliant idea of trying to map the pedigree or the family tree of every UMA Musume girl. Originally, that was the plan, but when I looked them up, I saw that there's over 200 of them now. And that was just something I do not have enough years in my lifetime for. So I decided to trim them down to the playable ones in global, as well as some notable ones from the anime and ones that are not in the anime and also not in global yet, but are close enough that I don't have to go out of my way and try to connect them. I traced the pedigree of 41 Uma Musume and I was able to connect all of them. They are all related, as you can see in this messy ass diagram here, which I have a better version and I'm going to explain it to you later. But as you can see, it was not easy. So what I did was I looked through JBIS, the database for horse racing horses. Well, race horses in Japan. And I tracked the pedigree or their bloodline, and then I tried to see similar ancestors, and I tried to connect every single one, and we did it. We managed to prove that all 41 of these Umas are related. It's mostly because of this one guy, but I'm going to discuss that more later. So first, let's explain what a pedigree is. A pedigree is basically a more fancy, more scientific way, more pretentious way of saying family tree. But a pedigree is also used in genetics, and it's used in like trying to figure out if certain conditions or sicknesses are like X-linked, Y-linked, or recessive or dominant. But there are rules. It is much more standardized than just any other type of family tree. So, there are some rules in creating pedigrees. So, some of the most basic are the shapes. If the shape is a square, that means that the sex of that person is male. If it's a circle, that means that it is female. If the shape is crossed out like this, that means that that individual is deceased. If a shape is shaded like so, that means that they are affected by the condition that you are trying to investigate. Next, if it is something like this, if it only has like a small shaded area in the center, that means that they are carriers but asymptomatic. They do not show the trait that they are carrying, but they may pass it on to their offspring. Okay, some other rules. Here is how it looks like if two individuals bred. It's the female, that's the male. There we go. And then you place their children in between. There you go. For example, this one means that they have a daughter and a son. It goes from left to right. This one's the elder sister and then the younger brother. Okay, next. What if there are twins? If there are twins, that means that they will come from the same point. So this one are twin sisters. Alright. If the shape is, if it's a diamond, that means that the sex is unspecified. If there's a cross like this, that means that it is a stillbirth. So for example, this one is an unspecified sex stillbirth. Okay, what else do we have? If there's a dashed line like this, that means that these two parents are divorced. If there is an extramarital mating, for example, what if this father has a mistress and they have an anak sa labas? That means that you connect them with a dashed line. If they have children, for example, if they have a son, an elder son, and a younger daughter. Oh, let's move that a little bit. There we go. And if these two have children, incest basically,
This double connecting line means a consanguineous mating. This means that they have a daughter. That's very messy. And yeah, those are some rules that are employed in creating pedigrees. And you also add like the generations here, second generation, third generation. Well, for our pedigree for Uma Musume, actually we're only going to use the male and female shapes as well as this. It's basically just that, but the more you know, you're welcome, I guess.
Okay, so the part that everyone wants, horse girls, am I right? So, here is the very messy version of the pedigree that I created. And this is version 3 actually. Our final version is version 5. But I have here like the earlier versions. See? This one's like version 4, so it's kind of more easier to understand. But some of the earlier versions look like this. Version 1 looks like this. Look at that. Can you even understand any of that? But this basically is, if it has like a horseshoe mark, that means that this is an Uma girl. We have your special week, Matikani Fukitaru, Sakura Chiyo no O, Hishi Amazon here, Tokai Teo, Tamamo Cross. And I'm going to explain how they're related later. But I just wanted to show my suffering here. Let's proceed to a more easier to understand version. What I have here is the final 5th version, where we preserved the different levels so that the generations are clearer. And boy, is it a long boy. Look at this. Look at this. Look at this. Actually, you know what? Just to show it more effectively, I'm going to go outside later so I could show it more effectively when we have more space, because I don't think my room has a wall long enough to display all of this. What's up, horse bros? Today we are outside in order to properly show this huge ass pedigree, and we are surrounded by normal people who actually want to go outside, but we have grass here. You can touch it if you want, but we're here for the main event. We're here to show the full pedigree. And before that, weird ass, my microphone, for some reason my wireless mic was not working properly, so we're just raw dogging it with a long ass cord. But here it is for now. It is not even visible outside. Look at how huge that is. Look at how fucking huge that is. And this is just in order to show you the scale of how fucking huge it is, man. This is not practical. I'm gonna upload the proper picture of this pedigree. All of this effort for cartoon horse girls. By the way, I made this pedigree before Mihono Bourbon was released, and they literally released it like an hour after I finished making this. So although I did say that all playable Umas are in this pedigree in this video, Mihono Bourbon is not in it. I am so sorry, bros. But I could explain some things through this pedigree. So it's very messy, but one of the most important things that we can see is that most of these horses are related to Northern Dancer. He is one of the most influential horses in horse breeding and has 8 mares. He has mated 8 times within this entire pedigree. So he's the most important link in trying to create a link between all of our Umas. So, one thing to note, another thing here is that Maluzensky, yes, that Uma, Maluzensky, is a boy in real life. So 1, 2, 3, 4. He had 4 different mares that connected some of our Umas too. But basically, I'm going to cut up the different outgroups, or rather the different branches of Northern Dancers pedigree, so that it's much easier and hopefully we can fit it in this wall. So I'll be back and let's start with... Oh, and actually, give me 1 sec. It's very hot. This costume is very hot. So let me switch. Let me change 1 sec. Yes, I know that this is a fedora, not a cowboy hat, but I like this hat much better. And that one was like much smaller. It was like kid size. And by the way, I forgot to mention, but here is the list of all the umas that I managed to connect. All of the playable umas are here. Also, some notable ones in the anime that I have watched so far, and also some of them that are close enough that I don't have to extend the pedigree like 3 pages more. But for now, here are the first 4, and it's only going to get more complicated from here. And I thought that this would be enough, but I realized that I might need to draw them much smaller later for Maluzensky's line, which is very, very much more complicated. But yeah, first, our oldest horses are Senju, Neverbeat, and Star Highway here. They are just 1 generation higher than Northern Dancer, our goat. Oh, actually, let me turn off. Sorry, but I have to turn off my light so that everything would be visible. But yeah, they are only 1 generation higher than Northern Dancer, but also they have children that are technically 1 generation higher, but you know, horses have a much shorter time before they reach sexual maturity, so their generations could be a little bit mixed, but I'm actually surprised of how relatively simple their generations are. But anyway, once again, these are our oldest horses, and they connect to Northern Dancer. So some of the more notable ones that we need to take note when we connected to the next part of our pedigree are Northern Dancer, as well as Tesco Boy. Yes, we have a line here that we need to connect later, but we also take note of him. But there's only 4 of them in this list so far, but it's only going to get more funny later. So, Never Nalubi and Silver Shark has a daughter, White Nalubi, and she has a daughter with Dancing Cap, which gives us Oguri Cap. Okay, so once again, Oguri Cap's great-grandfather, Silver Shark, had a child with Rose Tosho in Grey Tosho, and also Grey Tosho has a daughter with Tesco Boy, which we'll connect later, and that daughter is Athena Tosho, and with Crystal Glitter, we have Machikane Fukukitaru. And then we connect Sakura Bakushin O through their grandfather, Tesco Boy, who had the child with Angelica, which is once again related to Neverbeat and Star Highway. So interbreeding is a little too common in horse racing. That's because of them trying to keep the bloodline pure, but it's actually pretty far apart, except for a few exceptions, which I posted about El Condor Pasa being pretty inbred. But anyway, once again, okay, go back. Tesco Boy and Angelica has a daughter, Sakura Yutaka, and with Sakura Yutaka and Sakura Hagoromo, which is related to Northern Dancer. That's important so we can connect it later to the other umas. They have a child, Sakura Bakushin O, and Sakura Bakushin O has a daughter with Otome Gokoro, Sugar Heart, and their daughter Sugar Heart has a son with Black Tide, Kitasan Black. So yeah, some of the horses are actually dudes IRL, but yeah, that's 4 umas. 37 more to go. So yeah, take note of Tesco Boy and Northern Dancer. They're gonna be important when we connect them to the next part later. Alright, next part. I had to change inks because the blue one was bad. But anyway, once again, relating back to Tesco Boy, which we should have taken note from the last page. And then Northern Dancer, once again, is here, although he's the oldest one in this part. So, Northern Dancer and Flaming Page has a child, Nijin Sky, and Nijin Sky has a child, Maluzensky. Yes, the Uma Musume Maluzensky. And then, Maluzensky has 4 mares. Well, at least 4, but right now we're only talking about 3 of her mares because the other one is very complex and it leads to up to Mayano Top Gun. But anyway, for now we have these 6 umas, And then, Tesco Boy's daughter, Rock Tesco, has a child with Maluzensky, with Powerful Lady. And then with Tommy Bin, they have Winning Ticket, another Uma in our list. And then, Tommy Bin, who mated with Powerful Lady, mated with Dinah Gale, and they have a child with Air Groove. Tommy Bin mated with Sakura Claire, and their child is Sakura Chiyo no O. Okay, so going back to Maluzensky, another of her mares is Lady Shiraoki. They have a child, Campaign Girl, and this daughter had a child with Sunday Silence, and that is Special Week, our protagonist Uma. And then Maluzensky has a child with Sakura Sedan, and this child is Sakura Chiyo no O. So, Special Week and Sakura Chitose are related through great-grandpa. Air Groove and Winning Ticket are half siblings. Sakura Chitose is actually Air Groove and Winning Ticket's uncle. So that's 6 more Umas, 31 more to go. But yeah, take note of Maluzensky. We're gonna discuss the rest of her bloodline. And once again, they are related to Northern Dancer, okay? Alright, next page. So once again, we connect through Maluzensky. With Kurikatsura, they had Lilac Point, and Lilac Point with Real Shaddai has Rice Shower. Rice Shower is Maluzensky's grandson. Next, Real Shaddai is the children of Desert Vixen and Luberto. Luberto has a child with Kelly's Day with Brian's Time. Brian's Time had a child with Tanino Oyster with as Tanino Gimlet. Tanino Gimlet and Tanino Sister has a child, Vodka. Next, going back to Brian's Time, had a child with Up Me Please with Mayano Top Gun. And then Brian's Time has another mare with Pacificus. Their child is Narita Brian. Pacificus has a child with Sharud Biwa Hayahide. That's another 6 more Umas. It took me like 10 minutes to set this up, and that explanation only took 1 minute. Another fun fact that I learned is that Uma girls, depending on which side of their ears their ear decoration is located, that denotes whether they were a stallion or a mare in real life. So, for example, Vodka is a mare. Can you please focus? Can you please focus? God damn it, this is what I get for getting a Fujifilm camera. Vodka is a girl, and her ear decoration is on her left ear. So, it would appear as right to us. And for example, Maluzensky is a stallion. So, that means that her ear decoration is at her right ear, or that would be our left-hand side. See? I realized that for some of the recordings, I referred to child as children. My grammar might be whacked, but I'm so sorry. It's 1 a.m. and I have horse girls to explain. Okay, next up, once again, connected to our GOAT, Northern Dancer. If it wasn't for him, I swear this wouldn't have been possible. We're going to talk about 3 more of his mares. Nice Princess and Northern Dancer has Nice Dancer. You can appreciate the naming of horses here. Nice Dancer and Urara Miyuki has a child, a son, with Nice Nature. Next, another mare, Pas Denom and Northern Dancer had a son with Danzig, and Danzig had 2 mares. Mare number 1, Graceful Touch. They have a daughter with Amelie Flores. Silver Hawk and Amelie Flores has a daughter, Grass Wonder. Next, Danzig and Reziana has a son with Dane Hill. Dane Hill and Cocote has a daughter with Fine Motion. Okay, Northern Dancer and Special has a son, Nureyev. Nureyev and Tree of Knowledge has a son, Theatrical. Theatrical and Katie's has a daughter, Hishi Amazon. So that is 4 more Umas. We have a lot more to go. God fucking damn it. Once again, our GOAT, Northern Dancer, with one of his mares goofed. It's kind of a long way before we get to the Umas, and I'm so sorry if it's not clear or if it's not even readable on your end, but who cares? You're only here for the Umas, so just listen or refer to the full pedigree when I upload it. Once again, Northern Dancer and Goofed has a son with Lifeard and No Luck, Mogami. Mogami and Angelet Sweet. Sweet Angelet, once again, I fucking love horse names. Sweet Angelet, Mill Groove, Sister Mill. By the way, I'm just gonna go fast with it. You already see where I'm pointing. Sister Mill and Sheriff Star, Seiun Sky, next Uma in our list. Okay, so Colonel Simboli and Sweet Franz had Angelet Sweet. That is how we connect Tamamo Cross to Northern Dancer's bloodline, okay? So, if you're still following, Seiun Sky's great-great-great-grandfather has another brother, Zuisho, through the mare named Cumulus. Zuisho and Fortimo had a son, CB Cross and Green Chateau has Tamamo Cross, another Uma for our list. Okay, so once again, Partholon has another mare with Sweet Luna. Oh my god, I forgot. Simboli Rudolph. God, how could I forget? Anyway, yeah, Simboli Rudolph. Let me get her picture one sec. I can't believe I forgot her. I have her in game. Simboli Rudolph. There we go. And Simboli Rudolph had a son with Tokai Natural with Tokai Teo. So, the school council people in the anime, Simboli Rudolph and Tokai Teo, are actually father and son. So, it's kind of funny. In the anime, Simboli Rudolph is Teo's senpai, but in real life, they're actually father and son. Next page. Alright, we are now in my favorite part of the pedigree, and it's not just because Golshi is here, but anyway, once again, our goat, the absolute literal fucker, Northern Dancer, and Fairy Bridge has a child, Sadler's Wells. Okay, so Sadler's Wells has two mares. First, Color Spin. They have a child, Opera House and Once Wed, TM Opera O. Okay, once again, going back up, Sadler's Wells and Glenvow, I think that's how you pronounce her name, has a child, Sadler's Gal. I don't know why this one has the wrong spelling and this one has the correct spelling of Sadler. But anyway, Sadler's Gal and King Mambo. No, this is not Machikani Tannhauser yet. It's just that his name is literally King Mambo and I had to add a Mambo joke here. But we're going to get to the real Mambo later. Anyway, Sadler's Gal and King Mambo has a child, El Condor Pasa. El Condor Pasa and Medulo Dober, yes, two Umas has a child together. Medulo Dober and El Condor Pasa has Medulo Hillary. And then, Medulo Hillary married... not married? What the fuck was I doing? They're just horses. Sometimes they don't even fuck. Sometimes it's just the semen that's being delivered. Anyway, Medulo Hillary and Manhattan Cafe has a child, Medulo Kuroyuri. And then, Symbolic Chris S married into the family as Medulo Yuri's sire for Crown Lily. Sire, by the way, is the father. Dam would be the mother. Going back to Medulo Dober, her parents are Medulo Beauty and Medulo Ryan. Even if they both have Medulo in their name, it doesn't mean that they are interbred. Sometimes it just means that they came from the same stable, so the more you know. Medulo Beauty and Medulo Ryan, another Uma, are Medulo Dober's parents. Medulo Ryan's parents are Medulo Chaser and Amber Shaddai. Going back up one generation, we have Medulo Saman and Cheryl, which are the parents of Medulo Ryan's mother. And then Cheryl also has another stallion with Medulo Asama. They have a child, Medulo Titan and Medulo Aurora. Medulo Titan and Medulo Aurora has a son with Medulo McQueen, another Uma. Medulo McQueen and Pastoralism has a child, Point Flag and Stay Gold, another Uma. I think she's one of the more newer, like one of the latest Umas in JP. But yeah, Stay Gold and Point Flag has a child, Gold Ship. Yes, we finally got into one of the best bros of the series. Gold Ship is actually Megilo McQueen's grandson. So, when she's fucking around with Megilo McQueen, that means she's actually bullying her grandfather. His grandfather. Weird. Anyway, Stay Gold has another mare, Oriental Art, and they have another child, another son with Olafevre. Oh, we are almost done. We only have this much left. God, I am so whacked. It's almost 2 a.m. I think, man. Why am I talking about horse girls at 2:11 a.m.? Anyway, next page, gamers. We are down to our last 8. Once again, we start with Northern Dancer. What's new? And this, again, is Northern Dancer's son, Nijin Sky, which I already talked about earlier, who is actually Maluzensky's father. So, here are his 4 other mares. But once again, let's go to Green Valley. His first mare, Nijin Sky, Green Valley, Green Dancer. Green Dancer, no Nanette, no attention. Once again, horse names, they are so funny. No attention, and Nice Day, their daughter, or rather son, Super Creek. Next, another Nijin Sky child, Nijin Sky and Fast Approach, has a daughter named First Fling. First Fling and Affirmation, Princess Rima. Princess Rima and Big Stone, Mei Shodoto. Next, Nijin Sky and Sovereign first, Lucky Sovereign. Lucky Sovereign and Peerless Lady, Heroine. Heroine and Nipoteo, we have Haru Urara. I forgot to... Haru Urara. My baby. Haru Urara. My beloved daughter. Those who played her story knows. Legends lang nakakaalam. But yeah, Haru Urara. You should play her URA storyline. Okay, next. Nijin Sky and Foreseer. Carleon. Carleon? I think. Carleon and Muffities. Welsh Muffin. Actually, I could... Welsh Muffin and Devil's Bag. Taiki Shuttle. Okay, that's 4 more. Only 4 left. And yes, we're gonna talk about Mambo next. Last batch, baby. It's becoming worse and worse. Ideally, you're supposed to keep the generations in one line, but have to work with it. Once again, of course, we start with Northern Dancer and Lady Victoria. They have a son, Northern Taste. Northern Taste and Cripsy Machikane Tanhausa. Okay, finally, we got to the meme. The normies are happy now. Mambo Girl is here. And, once again, Northern Taste has another mare with Scarlet Ink. They have a daughter, Scarlet Bouquet. Scarlet Bouquet and Agnes Tachyon, another Uma, has a child, Daiwa Scarlet. Okay, so going back to Agnes Tachyon's parents, we have Agnes Flora and Sunday Silence. Sunday Silence and Wakia has a daughter, Silent Suzuka, and actually, I just realized it now, even after 5 revisions, that Sunday Silence is also Silent Suzuka and Special Week's dad. These 3 are half brothers. I only realized it now. I only realized that Special Week, Silent Suzuka and Agnes Tachyon share the same father, even after rewriting this shit 6 times. These are the 41 Uma Musume girls that we have mapped. I think it's not impossible to map all of the Uma girls, especially with Northern Dancer around. I am so sorry if I missed your favorite Uma, but if you want, you could leave a comment. I'll try to link them somehow, maybe for a part 2, maybe as a reply. But it's interesting, right? I actually learned a lot about horse breeding and competitive horse breeding, and it's really amusing to see the history of like taking track of the pedigree of horses, because these records go all the way back to 1700s. we had pedigree records of horses all the way back to the 1700s, which just shows how important horses are to us and how important breeding them properly is, because it's very easy to have inbreeding within a certain industry where breeding of animals is important. So it's actually impressive how there's only like one or two. It's very rare that there are no inbreeding in like the 5 generations of horses if you look at their pedigrees. But it's interesting how important and how much we understood the importance of genetic diversity even way before we solidified genetics with Gregor Mendel. I did not look that up, okay? When did Gregor Mendel? 1860s. It was not even accepted then. Gregor Mendel, when he wrote his genetics paper about peace in the 1960s, it was not accepted. It was accepted like a few decades later after his death. People thought he was crazy because he was a mathematician. He was not a biologist. So he did not know the mechanics. We did not discover DNA until way later with Watson and Crick. Watson, Crick, Franklin, Rosalind Franklin. Yes. Okay, so a little bit of a history lesson. This is actually not scripted anymore, but it's not a Sarah video if I am not accidentally teaching you stuff. Recap. Horse pedigree go back all the way from 1700s. Okay? Our next event, 1860s, Gregor Mendel mathematically modeled genetics. Okay. And back then, it was not accepted because people thought they were crazy. We take it for granted now that we know all about genetic diversity and all about genetics because of advances like PCR. Back then, DNA fingerprinting was very expensive, but the fact that we could do DNA fingerprinting in a few minutes, back then, Gregor Mendel was thought to be crazy and his ideas were not accepted because even he did not know why his results make sense. He is a mathematician, not a biologist. So, back when Watson, Crick, and Franklin discovered, or rather modeled, DNA in 1953, that's like almost 100 years later, we already understood back then in 1700s the importance of genetic diversity, the importance of keeping track of the pedigree of animals because interbreeding is bad. There's actually a study about carabao inbreeding in the Philippines. See, that's one sad thing about our lack of access in science here in the country is that I remember reading a characterization of inbreeding in carabaos, or I think one of my professors talked about it. Yeah, because farmers are poor, we don't have very good scientific support to our farmers. That's why they don't have access to like proper genetic services for their cattle, which is sad because carabaos are unique to the Philippines. I am not sure if they're endemic, but they are a symbol of Philippine pride. And if we continue to just ignore the problems of genetic diversity and not keep extensive records like Musume, genetic records like horse racing and horse breeding, it's sad. It's sad. I'm sorry. I have to add a little bit of social awareness there. But yeah, all that from Anime Horse Girls. Hell yeah. That's the stuff that you're gonna be expecting. Oh my god, I look fat in these clothes, man. Anyway, that's it. I've yapped enough about horse girls and about horses and about genetics and about state of our country. I hope that's enough accidental learning from me to you. Let me know of your favorite horse girls and I will try to map them if you want, if you enjoyed. Bye. Thank you. That's it. Horse over.